The Broken Agenda Podcast. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Are you looking up all the brands that Constellation carries?
Yeah.
All right, this is not relevant to our topic, but it is kind of relevant, period. So what do they... Yeah, I am kind of curious. What do they have a complete list?
That's what I thought I was going to. Oh,
Is
here we go, Peter.
Constellation only in the U.S.?
I do not know.
Because they only keep showing Corona and Modelo.
And Corona.
How funny would it be if...
Wine. I know they're a big spirits company.
Oh, interesting. So what did they just buy the national rights to just those two beers?
They must have, yeah.
Well, I mean,
Svedka,
so
Vodka,
who
High West.
makes Corona? Because obviously they're distributing it through Constellation. They're the licensee.
I wonder if some of it's coming from white label.
Well, look
So
at
there's a shit in the alcohol world. There's a shitload of private companies that might make like Corona's beer and then slap Corona's label on it.
Okay.
I
so
thought when we
contract
looked up
manufacturing.
Anheuser-Busch brands that Modelo and Corona were both listed.
They are.
They are.
But then
other markets.
But probably neither InBev nor Constellation makes it. Somebody else probably makes it, and then they're the licensees. So
Right.
InBev is licensed to sell it globally. Constellation is licensed to sell it in the United States. Does it say?
That's what I'm trying
It
to
could be a
say.
whole bunch of different
It
producers
could
too.
It's because essentially, I mean that's a huge contract manufacturing space.
Yeah. So it's entirely possible there's companies you've never heard of that are making 100,000 gallons a year.
It could just be like four breweries in Mexico or something.
Could be.
And they just buy the stock from them, and then you have the rights to sell it where you have the rights.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's amazing how
Probably won't
hard
get
it
an
is to
answer.
find information anymore.
Yeah.
You'd think with the way the world is right now, it'd be so easy to find info, and it's getting harder and harder. I know I want to do an episode on the death of Google, but Google has sucked for the last 2 years. I can't find a damn thing. You know what it is? It's like I feel like I'm talking to an adult that's trying to always steer the conversation to what they want to talk about. You know what I mean? Like that's what Googling stuff is now. It's constantly them trying to tell me, well, yeah, I think what you really want to just talk about is this. And let's just have this conversation. I'm like, that's not what I'm asking. Why won't you answer my question? So it makes more distinct flavor. No, that's not useful.
Yeah, it's just all stuff.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to find what we're looking for. All right. Well, I don't think everybody wants to see us Googling Corona for the next 2 hours. But all right, I want to pick up the conversation from last time, though. I don't even want to mess around here with saying stupid crap at the beginning of the show. Jimmy, you were talking about being pretty okay positive on the smart city concept. So where do you want to jump to from here? Because I know I'm not saying that you are. I'm just saying that you were definitely not slamming it home, like slamming it down, saying, no, this needs to stop.
Well, I guess it's fascinating on one sense, you know. When you I found a city like there's Chattanooga, Tennessee, and San Jose, California, are the two cities that are like registered with the World Economic Forum for us in the States. There's this dude doing this Telosa. This is I guess this dude used to be I don't know if he was a CEO for Walmart. He was one of the executives high up in Walmart. And then he found like Jet.com and Diapers.com.
Okay.
So he's trying to build this city somewhere in the they're just buying land out in the desert. And they want to build this city.
Okay.
Here in the States, I'm guessing Nevada, Utah area.
What was that book series? There was a book series where they did that.
What's that?
They built a city and it ended up being like a city of the future out in the middle of the desert. It was
Wayward Pines.
Yeah, it was like that type of book, but it wasn't Wayward Pines. All right, I'm not gonna waste time.
I'm trying
with
to
this.
think. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But yeah, and then they ended up going to war. And
I don't know if they have any photos of this. There's an image that they have of this city, the design of it.
Well, you think on their website they'd have like a concept.
Like when you look at them, I mean, they just look, it seems to me like it'd be a really cool place to visit for vacation, like,
I believe that.
so I see it starting off as like tourist destinations, right? In some sense.
So are these concept photos here?
Yeah. For this particular one. Yeah. So I can see like, I get this feeling what they're going to do is they're going to build these elite cities that I think are going to be more geared to keep people out as opposed to keep them in.
Well, it's going to have to be because this isn't going to work if you let the general population in.
Yeah. So I feel like when I was on my trip to Europe, as I was researching this is kind of like what I started envisioning. In Europe, I went to Versailles. I don't know if I told you guys that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so at Versailles, they built the palace, and they had the 2,200 acres of gardens, like plush.
Which the Palace of Versailles is insane.
Yeah, it's just incredible. And so you go back in time, to that era when, they would pillage all of the people and build these,
Yeah, the times
build
of
the
kings and
palace
queens and
build the
elites.
yeah.
And now we're back to times of kings and queens and elites.
Yeah.
Except our kings are Bill Gates,
And
the head of the World Economic Foundation.
Yeah, so I think what they're doing is they're going to,
Zuckerberg.
instead of building palaces, they're going to build cities in pockets all around the globe, and then they're going to have this like these areas to go.
Now let me ask you this: if you had the resources, and maybe you do, I'm not speaking for you, but if you do, let's say that the price of entry is something that's within your means, and these cities start appearing, would you move to one?
I don't know, man. I would visit.
I
I'd probably feel bad about it
I don't think I'd visit. I don't know if I would.
because it would extract you into the system.
Yeah, I don't even know if I'd want to go there.
I think these places are going to be privileged. I don't think that these smart cities are going to be for the general population. What's good? I think they're going to build cities, smart cities, where the elite can hang out.
I'm sorry. Are you implying that they wouldn't want me and Tyler?
I don't know.
I don't like where your head's at.
Well,
I don't think it's one bit.
You're going to have such an income to be able to afford to go to it.
I mean,
like it's
Tyler and
not
I are
just,
ballers.
See, I bet my city could beat up their city.
Yeah, I'm 100% sure. I bet on his city.
I didn't mean to. I didn't mean
I don't
to
even know what your city's
insinuate
got.
like
I'm
you.
pretty sure it'll win.
I think they're going to create it and build these cities all across the globe that they can all hang out in. And then when they show proof of concept, they'll show how great they are, and then they'll take pieces of this technology and implement it in cities where they want to control people, right? So they'll sell it based on their utopian cities they build for themselves
That are filled with Oprah and Tom Hanks.
Yeah, and then they will only take the monitoring aspects of those cities and dump them into, the old non-smart cities. We'll get like with Versailles. Oh, give them street lights and double their taxes. So they showed up and put lights all over the streets, and then extracted another 10% tax rate out of the people because they put lights up, right? And then they added more gardens to their palace. So I think that's kind of like, to me, what I sort of see the future going. So I don't think that the cities they build now are going to be the negative aspect of it. It's going to be when they take the technology and start implementing
It'll
it.
be the tier 2 cities.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
That's my thought. I think they want to have places like this all over the world that they can go hang out at.
So will there be, when they're done, any places that isn't that?
West Virginia.
So start buying land in West Virginia?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's actually not a terrible idea.
Check out.
There's going to be entire pockets throughout the U.S. where this shit won't fly. I mean, the Midwest.
Well, I worry this is the type of stuff that leads to civil war. Like, this is the type of stuff that leads to, like, they start trying to cram it down people's throats, and they're just like, you know what, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. And
Well, everybody's going to see these beautiful cities that they can't be in. And
I don't think so. What they're going to see is they're going to see cities where it costs $3 million to buy a 1-bedroom condo. I mean, that's not real life. Like, people aren't stupid. Like, that's the thing. Like, I think we have this. I know I make the joke all the time that look at the average person and remember that 50% of the human population is dumber than them. But for the most part, people are pretty smart.
Yeah.
Individuals at least are pretty intelligent. They're gonna see through this bullshit. Like, you're gonna be like, oh, I want to move there, and then you're gonna go on Zillow and be like, holy shit, if I sold everything I owned, I couldn't buy a broom closet. It's gonna become painfully obvious that this is not the real world.
Yeah, I think if anything like this happens, it's not going to be voluntary, right? You're going to have people who seek out this way of life, right? 'Cause
Yes.
that's what they want.
Well, the extremely wealthy people are going to want to live somewhere like this.
It may not
Where they
even
can-
need to be extremely wealthy. Just there are people who want to live in a city, right? I will never live in a city.
I don't think this is going to. I
There
mean,
are
this is
people
going
right now that want to inject themselves with trackers and want to put in
Exactly.
RFID cards in their heads and their hands and want to web enable their brains.
There's
Yep.
another place in Mexico. It's near
Do I have it already?
on my list. It was if you look at that list I sent, it's Mexico City. I had a link for it.
I don't know. I think
Cancun? This one?
Cancun future. Yes. Possibly. Yeah. Scroll down and look at the videos of the pictures of this place. So this one's going to be in the middle of like forest area, and they show you a map. Like it's going to be near Cancun. What baffles me about this, right, is like one of the main things you have
is this a done deal? They're building this.
this is well, I don't know if it's done deal. I don't-
557 hectares. I'm just making stuff up.
The city, the first one we looked at was like $800 million
Okay.
was the cost, the estimates they got to build that place.
This one's actually being built though. This doesn't
Was that
sound
the
like,
one I read about where a bunch of rich investors are all putting their money in? To get a lot of Silicon Valley money. Like
Yeah, I think like you have
I
cities.
did read about
you
that.
have cities that are being developed by government and World Economic Forum is involved, and then you have like private investors that are putting together groups and they're building cities as well. Or they're that's what I think these two are both private investment firms.
like just this, right? You're going to be advised when you can use the washing machine or dishwasher. You're signing up to be told when and what to do. It's like having a parent again. Which
Or conservation.
yeah, in the
Like
name
everybody
of
will put their
conservation.
trash in a community trash, and then that will, be. I don't know if they're that you'd think that they would incinerate the trash.
you can't put that into the atmosphere. You have to recycle all of it.
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Incinerations, they put
That's burning.
incinerators. Yeah, like it's.
They're not going to burn it. No, it's not.
It's not contained. It has to vent somewhere.
No, that's there is a garbage to energy plant in Reading, and whenever you drive by it, you can smell it for miles because they're burning all the energy, burning all the garbage, and it just smells god awful. But it is what it is.
It seems like it'd just be so cool to see one up and running. I just like I
mean,
understand the negative ramifications of it.
It'll be interesting to see how they deal with trash. Because energy is not going to be a problem, especially if you're down towards the equator. You're going to have close to 12 hours of significant sunlight every single day. You can generate a decent amount of power off solar panels on that amount of time. Power storage is going to be an issue because the nighttime is also 12 hours. But as long as they have a plan for that, which I know what I would do as an engineer, I would probably run water pumps during the day while the sun's out, pump water uphill, and then open up floodgates and create basically hydroelectric energy from the excess solar energy throughout the night. I don't know if that would generate enough, but stuff like that could be solutions. But you're still going to generate garbage. I mean, it's not like, and what are you doing with the garbage? I mean, and we suck at recycling. I don't know if anybody watching this that doesn't understand how bad we are at recycling has intentionally been not paying attention. We recycle like 5% of our trash.
We were so good at it until China stopped buying it from us.
Oh, we were so good at having them throw it in the Pacific for us.
Yeah, exactly.
Now we have to just throw it in landfills like we used to. But luckily it has to go in a separate
half the
blue
time-
truck
half the
before it goes into the landfill. So
Half the time they pick up our recycle, they put it in the trash truck.
not more than half the time. That's
what a lot
exactly what I
of them
just
are
said.
doing. Yeah.
They just pick it up in a different truck and then just put it in the same landfill.
Yeah, we've had them pick it up right from the trash truck.
Yeah, they don't care. They don't care. Well, it's. I mean, look, we had this entire $1 trillion Build Back Better plan, and nowhere in there was there anything for domestic recycling. Like, really, something we could actually use, and you claim this is about the environment and everything else, and nothing. We still throw it in landfills, which is not the end of the world because we really don't use much landfill space at all. I mean, if you look at it in the grand scheme of things. But my real problem here is that all of this, not all of this, but a lot of this seems to be coming from the climate hysteria. So this concept that if we don't dramatically change the way we live, the world will explode into a ball of fire. And there's more and more evidence coming out daily that that is all just lies. I mean, what was it that I sent you a group, Tyler? But these types of cities are being driven by the World Economic Forum, which is making these decisions to push these things based off of the idea that global climate change is destroying the earth. These are the same people that are telling us we can't have airports, we can't fly in airplanes, we're not allowed to have internal combustion engines, all of this stuff. We're not allowed to have gas grills, we're not allowed to have gas stoves. All of these things are coming from the same idea. Well, but this group that Tyler's got up on the screen right now, this is a group of right now 1,609 scientists that have all signed a petition telling governments to please stop with the climate emergency stuff. These are two of them are Nobel Prize winners. One is a prize winner in physics.
Physics, yeah.
And the other one, I think, was a Nobel Prize winner in like ecology or something like that.
Yeah.
And they've all signed on. Yeah, 609. There it is. Scientists and professionals, and they've all basically said there's no fact behind this. This is completely invented. Anthropogenic emissions are just not an issue. Now, do we have our long term, our emissions going to be something that are worth dealing with? Yeah. They're not saying that there's no problem here, but what they're saying is there's no looming natural disaster. This entire thing is invented.
Well, like smog seems to be a real thing.
That's pollution. Right? And that is a real thing.
And that's internal combustion engine. That has a lot to do with...
all of it does. Manufacturing, diesel ships for shipping. Most smog cities are coastal cities where it's not necessarily cars, but cars are a part of it. Mm-hmm. But we've also seen time and time again that smog's very easy to deal with. Like it is, and we don't really have smog in the United States anymore. I don't think there's a single city that suffers from smog anymore. What we had a big problem with smog in the 60s, 70s, and 80s before we started implementing pollution control, not carbon control. This is where people get confused. Carbon and pollution are not the same thing. Pollution is real. If you start dumping black smoke into the air, it will go into your lungs. It will cause a problem. It will hang in the air. It will cause a problem. Carbon is not the same thing. Carbon can be completely invisible. There's no evidence that human-made carbon has any impact whatsoever on the long-term ecology of our planet. And it's becoming more and more obvious. Now, we've got wildfires and stuff like that, but I got to be honest. Is it still a wildfire when you're arresting hundreds of people for setting them? I don't think that's a wildfire.
No, not exactly.
They're arresting people in Greece. They're arresting people all over Europe. They're arresting people in Canada for setting these fires. These are climate activists that are trying to say, look, the Earth's burning itself. It's all a scam. And it's distracting us from the real issue, which is pollution, which we have to focus on. Because you can't just ignore pollution. You can't just be making our water disgusting and dropping crap into the air. But two, it's absolutely screwing the mental health of our young people. You've got kids that refuse to have children because why would I raise them in a world that will just burn? You have kids that are committing suicide because what's the point if we're all going to die in 12 years? You legitimately are creating a mental health crisis.
Population control.
By convincing the youngest population that there's no point in living, the world is going to eat itself. So you might as well just give up. And that's what we're doing. Michael Schellenberger, who is a Nobel Prize winner in environmental sciences. The guy was the foremost person in environmental sciences, ecology. He spent his entire career overseas in Africa and Central America, in the rainforests of South America and everything else. He wrote Apocalypse Never and the reason he said he wrote it was because all of this is a lie and I have kids and I don't want them to kill themselves thinking that the world is going to end. I mean, this guy has been ostracized by the entire political leftist community because he stood up and said the opposite of what they're trying to propose. But this guy was the darling. I mean, he was like...
I think I saw in that article you sent, Al Gore made $24 million from his book.
Yeah.
And on global warming.
Mm-hmm. And I read it, and it's a very good book until you dig deeper into it and realize that it's all just bullcrap. None of it's true. So his entire idea in that book is essentially that for 4 billion years, this planet has been absorbing solar energy, and it has been converting it into biomass, and that biomass has, instead of releasing that energy back into the atmosphere, has been condensing it and dropping it into the soil. Right? So all of this concentrated energy, instead of going the way it's supposed to out into the atmosphere and then bleeding into space, has been sucked down into the soil. And in the span of 100 years, we took it all out of the soil in the form of oil and burned it, and real quick put all of that solar energy from 4 billion years back into the air. Well, first of all, if that were true, we'd all be dead by now. I mean, second of all, none of that is true, because as we've learned more about how the life cycle of the planet works, that's not how it works. None of this is how it works. So, and we're actually finding there's a negative correlation between carbon and temperature. So anything below 400 part per million, carbon doesn't even have any impact. There's nothing it can do. And historically, we have a very low carbon level right now, based over core samples from Arctic ice. So there's no reason to think that anything that's happening now has anything to do with carbon. Like, we invented that out of Al Gore's book, which was invented out of nothing. And the far more likely, and the one that most of the scientists that are saying this are saying it is solar activity. It's a solar cyclical activity. And
I'll take your word for it, because
do your own research. Don't take my word for it. I'm just an idiot. But read the books. Like, there's tons of books out there. They get 1,609 scientists right here that are writing articles all the time.
I try to read, but you can only read so much.
Well, I mean, just pull some of the articles that these guys are writing.
I only have so much time.
So the real problem we're running into is who funds most scientific studies?
Government.
The government. So here's what you want to read. You want to read something?
Well, a lot of it comes out of colleges, doesn't it?
And who gives the money for the grants for scientific studies?
Yeah, and then they take the information and lock it up in the...
No. That's not what's happening. So go back and read the grant applications. I did, after I had a guy tell me that I should. And I was like, all right, I will. So the way the grant applications are written is you can get a $50,000 grant for writing a study explaining how carbon impacts negatively the environment in the United States. If you don't have that conclusion, you do not qualify for the grant. So you don't have scientists doing true scientific experiments to figure out what the truth of a matter is. You have scientists manipulating data to make it say what they need it to say so they can get the government grant money so they don't have to fire their TAs. That's what you've got. So that's why you've got all of these scientists who are like, well, yeah, I wrote that, but I don't believe it. Because they're like, I had to write it, because otherwise they would have shut down my department. I mean, this is what's going on. Like, they're getting paid to say what they're supposed to say.
It sounds like this is a conspiracy.
Are we doing a conspiracy episode? All I'm saying is, don't listen to me. Go read the actual applications. Go read the grant applications.
Grant conspiracies? Do we have to make that an episode?
It is the most boring
Do we have to look that
conspiracy of
up?
all time. It really is. But you know what? I would guarantee that most conspiracies are super boring. We always want to look for the flashy ones, but most of them are paperwork related. Like, they really are. Like,
when we were talking, I think maybe we talked about it on the show that when that guy that what's the government agency that takes all the college research and locks it up and then resells it?
It's not.
And
it's a private company.
And then that
the
library,
access.
the Library of Congress or something like that.
No, there's.
And then that dude went in and he was downloading all the information and putting it out in the public.
I don't think I know this story. What are you guys talking about?
So any kind of scientific papers that are written, there's one authority to publish them.
Oh,
then,
yeah.
And then they charge so much money. One of the original founders of Reddit had figured out a way to hack that and download that stuff. That's what that was. It's a private company though. That is the like.
No,
single
this
authority.
this guy. No, there's a. I think I don't know if it's the Library of Congress or there's a political entity that takes all of the research from the colleges, puts that into a database.
Well, what
and
about
then you can and
other
then they
colleges
sell it.
at other countries?
And this dude was working there or something, or he like went around at night and he was setting up. He figured out how to hack the system and he was downloading all the information and uploading it to the internet. And they like arrested him. It was like a
Yeah, it was the
it was like a
original founder
Snowden-
of Reddit.
what's that?
That was one of the original founders of Reddit.
Can we
Is that-
solve this with the harnessing the power of the internet? Because I don't know this story. I know what you're talking about. I do remember hearing it at one point, but I don't know enough to participate.
And they,
Aaron Schwartz
Yeah.
dies in New York weeks before trial. Why do they always die right before trial?
yeah,
It seems like that's the real COVID. We should figure out what.
you know
the
what? I
trial
never
virus
followed
is.
it back up. I didn't even know that he died. When did he die?
It's got to be suicide. It's
It
always
was.
suicide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they said.
Was he friends with Hillary Clinton?
Might have been.
That's my
So
favorite meme.
2013, 10 years ago.
It's my favorite meme on the internet. I don't care who you are. Nobody has 52 friends who committed suicide. That's a picture of Hillary Clinton. It's such a great meme.
Yeah, so he's one of the founders of Reddit. He helped create RSS feeds.
That's wild.
And he was caught stealing scholarly articles and then uploading them to the internet.
So he hanged himself in his Brooklyn apartment. Friday night, his family and authorities said, see, they always hang themselves too. No ballistics.
Or somehow they shoot themselves in the back of the head.
Or-
Yeah, they're
Double
like-
tap.
They show up. They
twice.
show up.
That's the part that
Yeah,
gets
it's a
me. Why do they
double
shoot
tap.
themselves twice in the back of the head? Always?
They show up and they're like, you got two choices. You can hang yourself, or you can go with us, and we torture you for a year, and then kill you.
I go down.
Or
slower.
we torture you for however long we want to. And
Aaron's death is not simply a personal tragedy. It is the product of a criminal justice system rife with intimidation and prosecutorial overreach. Decisions made by officials in the Massachusetts U.S. Attorney's Office and at MIT contributed to his death. That's a good quote.
Yeah, they treated it was something with they treated him like a serial killer, essentially.
Wow.
When all he was doing was taking scholarly articles and uploading them to the internet.
Did they get out on the internet? Like, did it any of it
He
matter?
did. He had set up some, which is kind of
Yeah.
interesting with his background, but he set up some.
yeah,
he set
he
up a laptop in like the server room that was just syncing them to the cloud.
apparently a
It didn't
lot.
even cover his tracks.
Apparently a lot of it.
So,
He got-
where is it? Like, does anybody? David?
Well, it's
I don't
just all
know.
over the internet.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly.
I mean, you think is
Unless
any of
they-
it like I haven't? Have I heard of any of it? Like, is any of it like something anybody would care about?
I won't.
Because that would suck that he ended up killing himself, and none of the stuff that he released ever went anywhere or mattered.
Oh,
Yeah,
JSTOR. That's I think the government.
Okay, so where did the articles end up? Is the real question. Did they get to investigative journalists, or did they break any stories, or was there anything that came out of it that was interesting?
I think a lot of it was like design work. It was like design work that they were keeping.
MIT
Yeah.
design work.
Was
he
it
stealing
was
from MIT?
It was all kind of universities.
Yeah,
You're saying it was just
JSTOR
MIT?
is a digital repository between schools, I think,
Okay,
and he was stealing from there. But there's a big racket with scholarly
because they were
articles.
saying it was through MIT's computer network. See,
Yeah, he was connected in through theirs because he worked for them. I think JSTOR, maybe that's just their system. But I thought it was kind of like that library stuff that they have. Digital lab, yeah.
was you sure any of this got anywhere where people saw it? You sure it wasn't sent to like a private server somewhere or something?
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, I really didn't look at like what he was able to extract or even.
Because you'd think with that type of response, it would have been important stuff.
I think it was like.
Well,
it,
so the problem is
it was just like engineering. Like it was research on different topics and engineering. I guess if it's MIT, that would have been a lot of engineering stuff, right? That's probably more what they're doing. Engineering, technology, advancements and stuff.
And everybody's just cool that he committed suicide. Like that's the thing.
Moving on.
We're all buying in.
Moving on.
I don't know. I'm sick of everybody committing suicide.
Yeah, everybody
I've had
seems to find that fate.
At least in the U.S., they always hang themselves, so there's some questions. Like in Russia, they just magically fly out of windows.
Windows or their plane blows up.
Well, that one was. I mean, we're definitely getting off topic here, but really,
Everybody knew it was coming.
I mean, obviously, he had to know it was coming. Like, how the hell did he not defect? I mean, I don't know where he defect.
He was going to
talking
Belarus.
Yeah, but Belarus is basically Russia. Like,
Prigozhin or whatever, the guy who was head of Wagner Group in Russia.
he was the guy who marched on
Moscow.
probably, about 3 months ago? Something like that.
2 months ago at the
2 or
most?
3 months
Yeah,
ago.
I think so.
He marched on. He didn't like the orders that were coming down from Moscow, and he thought it was killing too many of his men, and he finally decided, screw these guys, and he turned his troops on Moscow and started marching on Moscow. And then before he got there, they worked out a deal. But he absolutely could have taken Moscow. I mean,
Yeah, that's the funny thing about it.
yeah, he had like 40,000, probably.
He had most of the soldiers.
He had most of like 40 or 50,000 troops marching with him. Like at that point, once you start marching, like that was your, you can't stop.
There's no turning back.
No,
at
at
that.
And
that
you're
point,
not-
you
you're
either
not-
finish up or you're gonna end up dying on a plane.
Yeah, like
which is what happened.
you would die for nothing.
Yeah. So I don't know if he thought
I don't know if
Heidi
we-
buying 50,000 men would protect him, but
Apparently not.
you obviously have never met Vladimir Putin.
And what was interesting is apparently he was always super.
So they were it
Paranoid,
was like
so-
protesting the war, I guess. More.
No, he was getting pissed off that
No,
one,
it's-
they weren't supplying him with enough stuff, and two, he didn't like the orders that were being given down because too many of his guys were dying. He was he's a militia owner,
Yeah.
and he didn't like what Russia was doing with his troops. So
And
he
they
started to
also
march on
said
Moscow.
Russia wanted to absorb some of his troops.
Yes, they were going to take over command of his
And
troops.
he said, "No, they're my troops. This is my private army. You can't take over. They're not a part of your army." And Vladimir
private
Putin
army.
said, "Shut up.
"Yeah, mercenaries.
They're mercenaries."
It's crazy.
Yeah, they're the largest mercenary group I think in the world, right?
I believe so.
And now they're
Well, they
they're
were.
elite.
Now the Russians took.
Now they have them for sure.
Yeah. So, but
Why would you be a mercenary, march on Moscow, and then not follow through?
That's the big question.
that's the big question. Why did he stop?
Yeah.
Like he should have followed through.
That doesn't even make sense.
So, I mean,
Probably something. They probably had his family by the balls or
that's
something.
what I was thinking.
My guess, and he figured he could get them to safety. But apparently, he was a pretty paranoid guy originally. Like he would publish flight plans and then take like not the plane that he was supposed to. He would have like 3 deep in planes. But Russia's got eyes everywhere.
Yeah, you're not going to get much done. In Belarus, you're not safe in Belarus.
No, no.
Belarus is Russia.
It's a puppet government.
Yeah, I mean, that's where they hide. That's where they store most of their munitions. So that technically they're not in Russia.
Yeah.
So Belarus has become basically a giant warehouse for Russia.
Mm-hmm.
So, like when you and I go and illegally purchase AK-47 rounds to sell them in Africa for a massive markup, that's where we'd have to go, Belarus. And tanks, whatever we're going to buy.
Imagine how complex that being in that upper echelon is. You know,
Yeah, you got people. You got people for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine. That's why the guy in the upper echelon, like Vladimir Putin, he's not managing stockpiles in Belarus. He's managing the guys who are managing the stockpiles in Belarus to make sure that they don't turn on him and use those to kill him.
Well, which is I think why
Which
Russia,
is why he killed
him.
the head of Wagner.
But I think that's why Russia had so much trouble with Ukraine, right? Layers of guys were preparing their munitions and stockpiles and stuff, but they were just taking that money and spending the damn money somewhere else.
Yep.
And then they went to go to war. And they're like, "Shit, we only have like enough ammo for 3 days."
But
Don't have
it's
any
basically,
food.
look, let's be fair. Russia's set up like the mob.
Yeah. Oh, it is the mob. Yeah.
It is the mob.
Yep.
So imagine one of you're the mob in New York City and you've got chapters in all the other cities. And the mob in Miami says, we don't need the New York chapter.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Ukraine is. And they said, we're going to do it ourselves. We know how this operation works. We don't need you guys. And New York says, we're going to send a bunch of guys. And they said, send them. Do it. That's what's going on. And for some reason, we are $70 billion invested in a mob war.
nah,
He just says, nah.
we just invested like $20 million so that we could get $50 million kickbacks to
Billion. Yep.
Or- or-
Billion.
to our leaders. Split that up. Everybody split that up and put in their deposit into the bank accounts. You know, everybody. Probably Putin got some.
No, we know how much Joe Biden got at least.
They all just shared probably 75% of it.
What was it? Him and so far they've confirmed he personally got $6 million, and 20 members of his family, including the children, all got money. Isn't that where we're at?
And all the Hawaiian victims got $700.
$700. Yeah,
At some point, we'll have to go over laser technology.
No, I don't want to do laser technology. I don't want to do it. Although I do keep seeing articles on why are all the celebrities painting their houses blue.
Just
And
superstitious.
Every time I see it, I'm like, damn it, Jimmy. I'm like, get out of my news feed. Like, stop hacking my crap. So, and the funny part is, this is America, so we're all idiots. So the news is concerned that it's not a pretty color of blue. And I'm like, I don't know if you're asking the right questions, guys. Like, I don't even know what questions.
They don't
to
like
ask.
the shade.
They don't like the shade. They think it's an offensive shade
It's
of
like
blue.
royal blue is not.
I don't know. All I know is, here's the thing. Bringing it back on topic. Smart cities are a product of the green movement, which is based on bad information. And I don't support smart cities, not because I don't think there's benefits there. I don't support smart cities. I don't like how they're being sold.
Well, how do you think? Let's rewind and put ourselves back in time.
We are tight on time, so we got to be.
Well, how do you think everybody felt about industrial cities? You know, when that was all coming about, right? They, that generation probably saw what was going on. They saw the companies dumping, their waste right into the river.
Well, I know.
Saw this.
They
saw
didn't
the
like
smoke,
it.
You know what I mean? So
they had emphysema outbreaks in cities like London and all over the world.
So would you say that the Industrial Revolution was a good thing or not? Like,
the Industrial Revolution was one of the greatest things that ever happened to humanity.
Okay, so should we have stayed in that? I mean, would you have going back?
We have stayed in it. We just moved it out of our country. Go to China.
So what I'm saying,
China is the 1950s Industrial Revolution. It's happening right now.
So, but there was this bad things that came about from Industrial Revolution.
No,
there were, but it's a different kind of bad.
Everybody's health defects.
Well, you're going to get those anyways.
Look, here's the thing. There is a lot of there's a lot of articles written on this, a lot of books written on this. The evolution of society requires industrialization. You cannot move beyond industrialization by skipping industrialization. It's not possible. It's like the evolution of energy. You cannot just skip entire sections of energy. You start at burning wood. Then you move to burning, coal. Then you move into burning oil and natural gas. Then you move into higher level energies like nuclear and geothermal. Like all of the progression of energy is required. You can't skip stages. You have to go through the Industrial Revolution. There's a reason why there's certain parts of this world that we call the Third World. They have not completed the Industrial Revolution stage yet. They're either in it or they haven't gotten to it yet.
So then wouldn't the next logical advancement be smart cities?
You have to get, maybe. We don't know, because smart cities are not a thing that any of us have gotten to yet. So it could be the greatest or the worst thing that's ever happened. What we do know is we have 100 years of authors telling us that this type of activity never ends well.
Well,
and
you mean in science fiction stories?
A lot of futurists that say this type of stuff never ends well. We have history of highly controlling centralized environments, whether it be governments or whatever, that never ends well. And even when we didn't have this level of technology, we still tried to do it. I mean, the entire idea behind the Reichstag and the Nazi movement and everything was control the people, control the population. So we know this. If you don't know history, you're doomed to repeat it. And these things never land at a good place. So you've got two options. Either figure out a way to do this so you don't end up repeating history, which I'm not sure is possible, or don't do it.
Well, it's going to allow us to advance and move into space travel. Smart city, I mean, basically, next will be a flying smart city.
I would say Elon Musk would disagree with you. Elon Musk is a big supporter of fossil fuels. And he's firing rockets off from non-smart cities all over the place. It's not required.
Yeah, he's still in dumb cities.
It's not required. And nor is now a planned city is required. Like if you're going to land on Mars, you got.
But what's he going to do once he what's he going to do once he breaks the atmosphere and he gets out there? Then what?
And what's he going to do with all that junk inside his trunk?
He's
I
gonna.
thought we were doing a Black Eyed Peas thing. I didn't know
His
what was
next step is going to be to create a flying smart city.
happening. Go ahead. Why is it got to be flying? It's just you can make a planned city. I mean, New York is a planned city, and it was planned back in the
Well, he wants
1700s.
to-
They
he wants
invented
to go
the
to
grid
Mars.
system. There's a difference between a planned city and a city that monitors your every movement and gives you no privacy. Just because they put streets in that were numbered and in a grid format with blocks does not mean that you had to sacrifice your personal autonomy. It just meant that we had a better idea of how to organize shit. Get organized. There's nothing wrong with getting organized. There's nothing wrong with timing the lights so that cars can move through more efficiently. No, but I think once you start tapping into individual people with their face recognition and you start tracking where everybody goes for purposes that are not necessarily relevant to traffic patterns or flows or anything else, just because it's something that you can do. As soon as you start doing things because you can do it instead of because you have to do it, you start having problems.
So we need smart cities with mainly without facial recognition.
No, I think there are elements of smart cities that are phenomenal. I think self-driving cars would be one of the greatest accomplishments on a mass basis ever. And people will hate that I said that, but let's face it, most accidents are because of people. And most traffic holdups are because of accidents. I mean, you could keep the infrastructure we have in place now and probably solve 90% of your traffic problems if cars knew where all the other cars were and interfaced in real time.
And if you had like a hub, like if you had a smart hub in your city, right, that you had autonomous.
No, you don't need a smart hub. You just need to know,
you could
don't
have
take that ramp right now because we got all these people taking this ramp. We're going to take this group of people and take them this way. And there's up ahead, everybody on that highway is all going the exact same speed.
But you could have you could have a smart hub that does deliveries where you have a core hub in the middle of a city that's passing.
What kind of, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Like product deliveries?
Yeah. Like you could just have a smart hub that's sort of like almost like that
No,
just
you don't need to
sort
do
of
that.
branches out.
That's all drone stuff. I guarantee you within 10, 15 years, they're going to be doing mass drone deliveries. Like that's just fly it out. You don't have to deal with traffic. You don't have to roll trucks. You don't have to have a bunch of field employees that are out there that hit mailboxes by accident.
You
or
think the
attacked by
packages
dogs.
are going to fly with a drone, like in the package?
I think large packages will still get delivered manually, but I think everyday packages, yeah.
Drones will just bring your package to your door.
Look, what do you think they're doing right now? What do you see going up being built more than anything else in this country?
Distribution centers.
Warehouse distribution centers.
Yep.
You're seeing them everywhere. Mm-hmm. Why?
Because everybody's getting a package now.
If you can get all of these distribution centers within range
Yeah.
that you can fly drones, you don't have to roll trucks. You have to roll trucks to move stuff between distribution centers and to redistribute, but you don't have to go to everybody's house. You can build enough of them, you cover enough of the country that you literally just, I mean, Amazon's doing it now. They're doing drone deliveries every day.
Well, that's sort of what I'm talking about. If you have a smart hub, like if you get those distribution centers and all that stuff in place, then you can have you can have self-driving trucks that go back and forth. So now you have this sort of
I guarantee you
network
all the trucks are going to be self-driving. You have self-driving trash trucks. Because why not? Once Elon solves that whole thing and makes it, I mean, yeah, the real problem is the unions will require that somebody sits in the driver's seat and does nothing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, you're going to automate all of it.
just for an emergency purpose.
Yeah, in case a truck does something stupid.
Then everybody's gonna be sitting there sleeping.
Yeah, that's what they'll be doing. Just sitting there sleeping. You'll have long haul truck drivers that'll just be
You
sleeping in
have
the
an
back of the
alarm
cab.
that goes off to wake you up
Yeah.
when something goes wrong. Or it anticipates with AI, it's going to anticipate something going wrong, and then
But I think you've got a massive employment shift coming because of AI, and smart cities are going to be a part of that. And I don't think you need. If you're talking about hubs, you're talking about 15-minute cities. You're going to have a hub in every 15-minute city, and a 15-minute city is not one city. There's no way to make New York a 15-minute city. New York would become 23 15-minute cities, broken up into regions. This section, everything can be put into place in 15 minutes. We got to make sure we build a school here. We got to build a firehouse here, police station here, whatever, and a distribution center here.
they're going to need an earthquake
A
first.
train stop, car stop, whatever, and then they're going to build one here and here and here, and then that's how 15-minute cities work.
We didn't even get into the line.
What line? Oh, the line. Jesus Christ, we don't have time for that, do we? Do we have time for that? Do you have it up?
I do not know. The line.
That's pretty interesting.
The line is interesting. I think it's a crap idea.
Oh, that thing in
The desert.
I don't have that up. No.
I mean, I find all of this funny that they have all these ideas of what they're going to do in the desert when currently right now in the desert, we are sucking the water out of the lake so aggressively that, we've got
What was the population
interstate
of
battles
the
going on.
line going to be? Yeah, like,
I forget.
well, look, Lake
10
Powell.
million or 20 million or something.
They're like Lake Powell's drying up
Lake
because the
Mead,
west,
Lake Powell.
and now they want to build a smart city out there.
Yep.
How smart is that?
Not that smart. I mean,
The water's all dry.
and you notice all of their renders have fountains everywhere and water all over the place. I'm like, really? In the desert? Like, you guys are doing not so great right
That's
now.
a smart idea, right? It's
Yeah,
a
they're
smart
brilliant.
city.
Yeah, they're freaking brilliant.
Maybe you can drill down and I guess tap into wells. I guess.
Is there even a water table
Where there
below the
was.
desert? Like, how deep are we talking? Like, I don't even know where the water table would be below the desert.
Yeah.
I'm sure there is, but I don't know how far you have to go. I mean, and now you're drilling a lot of wells.
Yeah.
It's a lot of wells. And then how many people can it support?
Depends how big it is.
I don't know. The engineering is an interesting question. Maybe there's a solution here. I don't know. I mean, maybe like Luke Skywalker's moisture condensers. Maybe they'll make that.
Can
I
we
don't know.
make water at some point?
Yeah, it's,
Will we-
it's,
will
it's
we
hydrogen
learn?
and oxygen. It's
Yeah.
about as easy as possible to make. I mean,
Can we
actually,
make it by volume?
I mean,
would be the
how much
question.
money do you want to spend? I mean, it's like anything else. You got the money, you can do anything. I mean, but I mean,
And you
Look-
you could split it, right? So you could have like a well water source and then create water. So you could
I don't think creating water is a viable option. I don't think that's going to work out well because people use a lot of water. Between the smart city itself and every single human, I mean, you have to drink, just to stay alive, you have to drink about a gallon a day.
Mm-hmm.
well, you
Which most people drink a lot more than that, or a lot of people do. But that's how much you should be drinking minimum. Then you got to cook with it, you got to clean with it.
well, if we can control the weather, though, like
Right, so
apparently we
you
use
just keep inventing things we can't do to solve problems that we say we can solve that we can't solve yet. Like this is the problem with this whole concept is we're always saying, well, we'll just do this. Well, we haven't done the bare minimum yet. We haven't solved any of this shit.
I read an article. Well, not an article, but like they supposedly used weather manipulation during the Vietnam War to flush out.
Yeah, shooting lasers at the clouds. I've heard all this before too. I'm not 100% convinced they've ever done it. They've said the Chinese have done it. They said the Russians have done it. They said the U.S. has done it. But I just
hearsay.
I don't know. I think this concept of weather manipulation is a thing that people love. They
It's a
love
conspiracy.
the idea. Yeah, I don't think we've gotten there yet. I don't. And if we have, I don't see how. Let's say we had lasers 50, 60 years ago that could do that. Like our laser technology sucked until about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, it really did.
What if we shot the laser and things went crazy wrong and it rained for 2 weeks?
Yeah, I got to be honest. I'm not super
They're like,
thrilled
"Oh,
about weather
shit."
manipulation. Period.
They're like, oh shit, it still rained.
I love how we're all worried about saving the Earth, but now we're gonna fuck with the sky. Did you see Matrix? Yeah, they screwed with the sky in that one too. It didn't go so great for the Matrix. Like I don't know if we should be doing that. I don't know if shooting lasers at clouds is the best idea. And I love how what's the new one? Bill Gates wants to put a giant mirror up in space. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Did you hear about the
You see
rod?
that?
No, I did not
Yeah,
see
he
that
wants
one.
it. He wants it to be geosynchronous orbits that'll float between us and the sun, so it'll block out a certain amount of the.
Interesting.
And I'm like, that's the worst idea I've ever heard. Like, stop it.
He's so smart.
No, he's not so smart. That's mad scientist crap right there.
Yeah.
Like, he had to have said it while going gwa ha ha and moving his fingers like this. Like, that's the only way you can say that. Like, did we lose video? Should we end this? Was that our sign? Did the camera say these guys are these long-winded pricks?
Did we? We must have lost camera.
We lost video. All right. Well, assuming you can still hear me, that's our sign.
Yeah.
And I hope you all had a great time with our.
Hey, can I go off topic one more time for you?
We don't have any video.
So we don't have any video. There's no
sorry.
point.
And
Have you ever heard of the rods of God? A war weapon that they want to put. They want
yeah,
to put
yeah,
up in
yeah. You
space.
drop them from space,
You
and
put up
they
those-
they gather so much kinetic energy.
Yeah, and they just
Yeah.
just annihilate a continent.
Yeah. They were going to use it against North Korean plutonium enrichment facilities.
Another fabulous
Because they're like,
idea.
you couldn't prove where it came from.
Yeah.
It would just be like basically rods flying through your. And maybe they did. I don't know.
Another fabulous idea. Right?
No, I love it. Shooting rebar from satellites is a
What if it
fantastic
drops
idea.
on the way up?
What do you mean?
What if
The whole
they
idea is
drop
to
it?
drop. Oh, on the way up? Like you're halfway up and somebody goes, oops.
Oh shit, we lost one.
I don't know, wear some gloves or something. Like, I don't know, like sticky gloves, like receivers.
All right. That's it.
I don't want to do this anymore. Everyone, I'm sorry you can't see us, but we can see you. We're always watching. So thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Hasta la vista.
The Broken Agenda Podcast. Sponsored by Laughing Rock Technology.